All right, welcome everyone. This is Dr. Phil, and this is our ninth episode of Filling the Gaps. Today, I've got another special guest for you, Dr. Paul Reed. How you doing, Paul?
Oh, brother, I'm doing great. Any better to be two of me.
Nice, nice. I like that.
And the world doesn't need two Pauls, at least this Paul.
We'll ask Heidi. We'll ask Heidi.
Yeah, but she would definitely say no.
But I wanted to have Paul on. I've been working with Paul actually for about 6 months in his Unstoppable Chiro Mentorship Program, and it's been awesome. I've really had a great experience, learned a lot. Just from the accountability standpoint, that's probably one of the biggest things that we've worked on for me. And I feel like I felt like I was achieving a lot and doing a lot, but this has really helped me kind of lock in, as the kids say. So
Yes.
I wanted to have Paul on if you haven't met Paul before, he runs ChiroFest up in Vancouver, Washington, which is a amazing event. What's the dates on ChiroFest, Paul?
September 25 and 26 this year, coming up. Little two and a
Coming
half
up.
months.
So yeah, if that's something you guys are interested in, or hit me up or let me know. I'm sure I can connect you with Paul and get you in there. But that's an event I'll be at, as well as some of my staff and that kind of thing. But
Right.
Paul's been in the consulting business now for quite a bit, and he had multiple practices for even longer than that. And
Yep.
so, the thing that I wanted him to share with you a little bit about was something that came up on a call yesterday about just maintaining that presence and that connection in your practice as it continues to grow. Because I know for me, certainly, I've got the two offices going now and trying to, do things like this and work, do things for the association. Keeping that present time consciousness it's always a challenge. It's always something I work at. So I
Yep.
wanted him to speak a little bit about that, and he has some key takeaways. But if you could just kind of give us your initial thoughts on that, Paul, that would be great.
Yeah, man. I think just to your point, as we grow as practitioners and our business starts to get on rinse and repeat, right? Where we've been at it long enough that new patients are producing themselves, people are starting care, people are staying into care. We get a little bit complacent, right?
Sure.
So, and we lose that present time consciousness. It's almost, I hate to use the word, we take it for granted, but we sometimes get to the point that we almost take those practice members for granted versus
Right.
versus really going back. If we took back either anchor to our why we were called it in chiropractic, whether that was a personal experience with ourselves or with a family member, and we re-engage our heart and our spirit and our mindset to that with each patient engagement, like the conversations are so much easier. People will be drawn to you. They're gonna naturally want to transition to signing for care and staying in the practice.
Yeah.
But just to your point, like we get a little complacent as we're managing more team members, we're scaling and growing the business. The household starts to get a little more chaos. We have a kid or two that are thrown into the mix, and so we're managing all of these things,
Yeah.
and we retract from being present, like you said, and there's just, it's so hard. Um,
I always feel like I'm not really choosing between good and bad things. I'm just trying to. I'm choosing between multiple good things, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, how do I prioritize this, right? And
yeah,
so, like you said, getting back to that, focusing on your
yeah.
focus kind of thing.
Yeah, and
So,
locking in. It comes, I think the biggest thing is, one, when you're having multiple, as you're growing and scaling and becoming, an entrepreneur, not just a business owner, is having solid yellow lines around your times. Like, here's my work on the business time, here's my training time, here's my me time, here's my family
right.
time. Or what I actually now have changed to supple yellow lines, where we're allowing for life to happen, because life is going to happen more often than not, right? But it really
I've really
starts.
had to become a student of my calendar, I feel like,
Yeah.
and block that time in advance to some extent.
1000%, that which gets scheduled gets done, right? So a student of your calendar, and then a student of your, learning to become really hyper self-aware, what reel is running between the ears, right? So when i'm
Mhm.
when i'm with a practice member, am I with a practice member, or am I thinking
Right.
about that conflict with a team member, or what my other docs is supposed to be doing, or the meeting I have at lunch? Like, if we're not able to separate church and state for without without a better word to describe it, and being locked into our church time, we're going to allow those outside distractions to really pull us away from that consciousness. And then it's just, people know, right? Innate, when you're locked in and innate connects to innate, like it's magical. But if we're distracted, we're just losing that opportunity to connect and really move that person through whatever our practice style is.
So let's talk about that first bullet point that you were discussing in terms of systematization for re-exams and care plans and things of that nature. So can you elaborate on that just a little
Yeah,
bit for me?
man. I think that the first thing docs need to do, right, is it's our, and I don't care what your rhythm or pattern or habit is, but it's you getting yourself ready. You know, it's back to one of our greats, Fred Bard says, like the healing begins with you, doctor, or something to that
Right,
effect. Like we have to get ourselves right before we show up to the practice. And Paul's rhythm's different than Phil's rhythms. It's different than anybody's listings rhythm. But you need
right.
to find your rhythm so that you're showing up your best version of yourself. And for me, that's quiet time, it's fitness, it's seeing the day before the day, all of these things that I was taught early on that have helped me accelerate. And so that's the first thing that they need to do. And whatever time you need, you know, next is, you know, as you mentioned, is moving to the office and getting there in time to prepare pre-shift.
Is that first point though the win the morning? Is that what you're kind of alluding
Yes,
to? Okay.
1000%, bro. Yeah, yeah.
So
Win in your morning, doing you, finding out whatever works for you, so that your day is your day is locked in and you're ready. You've seen it. You've already done. You know, again, the brain doesn't know any difference between dress rehearsal and reality. And so the more that we're preparing our brain for what's going to come, the easier the day is.
I know
And
that's been super helpful for me, man. That's one of the greatest things that I've seen over the last 6 months is, you know, winning that morning is helping me set the tone for sure.
it's setting the intention, the vibration, the expectation, man. Yeah, it's getting your body, your heart, your mind, your spirit, and ready for the day. 1000%. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Love it.
Okay, well, let's go to number two then. That's the systemization in the re-exam process and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so we, you know, again, that patient journey is so important, and they are no different than you or I, right? They're going to fall out of system, fall out of rhythm, fall out of habit, fall out of understanding. And so your re-exams, one for compliance, but two for re-engaging them in why they were there. Here's where you began, Randy. Right, you came in with X, Y, and Z. It was complicating X. You weren't able to do X. Your goals were to do X. And yes, you've got massive improvement. High five. Thanks for being a great patient and being compliant, executing all things that we've told you to. And I know, you know, Randy, just based on how you're doing, you're feeling better, right? He's like,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, that's good. And I'm glad that you are. But remember, here's where we're going and here's why we're going here. And this is why it's important that we need to stay on whatever your original recommendations are to move the needle in complete restoration.
Yeah, one of the things that was taught to me many years ago by Jim Nakarado is always stay in re-exam focus. You know, as
Yeah.
people are starting to wax or wane on their care plan, or you know, do I really need this many visits, or am I
Yeah.
getting better? What's
Yeah.
that?
Or yeah, 100%. Or if I'm not getting better, right? It just gives you an
Right.
opportunity to engage and address. And I see so many chiropractors, we get back to complacency because technically we are doing a re-exam every time we evaluate them before we deliver the adjustment,
Sure.
right? But just that separate and distinct appointment, one, it allows them as a consumer, like always try and put yourself in the consumer's eyes. Like, is this doctor really monitoring and paying attention to my progress or lack of progress? And
Hmm.
that separate appointment just shows them that they are a priority. You're making their care, and you know it's important to you as it is to them. And
Yeah.
then again, able to course correct them based on where they're at that first initial re-exam, and each one thereafter, for that matter.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next bullet point: protecting your flow, because this is something for
Oh my
me, you know,
gosh,
that I constantly focus on day in and day out, because there's always arrows coming at me, you know, during the day.
constantly, constantly. And, you know, and that one that comes, you know, from you spending time being transparent and authentic and communicating to your team of your expectations when you are in flow state, when you're in healing mode, right? And that's why it's, you know, we as chiropractors, I believe we should compress our shifts, our uptime, patient facing time, whatever you want to call it, and then letting your team know,
You
like,
mean
when
like
I,
cluster book a little bit
yes.
more?
Yep.
Okay.
100%. Cluster your people. Have special appointment times that are gonna pull you out of healing state at the front or the back end or whatnot,
Right.
giving you an opportunity. But yes, so protecting that flow state is really comes from communicating and educating your team why it's important. Like, hey, if it like I don't want to be interrupted at all unless it's like a major crisis. Like, hey, somebody drove a car through the window and you need to help the front desk person because they got smushed.
Yeah.
But all other things, like it can wait until I'm done with that shift so that you can stay. And you know, and then I see the other thing too that doctors, chiros that have gotten complacent with is they want to move the needle to here. I want to see 25 a shift or whatever it is. I'm only seeing 5 or 10 right now, and they allow those distractions to come in and creep in and allow their team to break things that they won't be able to do when they get to that number. And so I encourage them, like, no, like you need to act as if you were in that flow state, you were moving to that position, and all your habits, your rhythms, and disciplines need to be as if you were in that position right now.
Yeah, I mean that's it's such a hard thing to manage and to discipline yourself to do. But like you said in the beginning, I think to some extent you owe it to your patients, right?
Yeah,
Um, you owe it to yourself, right?
yeah.
To deliver the kind of care that you know that needs to be delivered. Kind of thing.
Well, and when we think, I think of our office experience for practice members as a three-legged stool, and I know we can go into so many explanations as for chiropractic. But first and foremost, when you're locked in and you're delivering the goods and you're present, and they're receiving the best adjustment possible, like they're going to get the results. And when they get those results, right, what are they going to do? They're going to stay, they're going to pay, and they're going to refer, right? So they're winning. And then you're winning, your business is winning. And then the third leg of the school is chiropractic's winning. So if we're not doing these things and helping these people get the results that we're telling we're going to help them get, and being great practitioners, they're not going to get the results, which means our business is going to suffer and fail over time. And then the profession, right? They're going to be the person that leaves. Oh, I went and it didn't work, and chiropractic this and chiropractic that. Versus if we're truly delivering the goods and helping people get the results that we're telling we're going to get, they're going to be raving fans naturally. And then, then they win, you win, and then the profession wins is really what it's about.
One of the things that I really liked, about the notes that you sent out yesterday and that I was reading and listening to was treating every adjustment like that life-saving miracle, right? And there's times when I catch myself, if I am feeling distracted for whatever reason, and I'm like, dude, you need to get your, your SHIT together, because this person on the table needs you at this moment, right? And if you don't deliver that, but anyways, I think you know where I'm going with that. So
if we're not locked in, right? If we have it, again, back to that flow state, and when you're with that person, when you're bent over their spine, or whatever your process is for evaluating, right? We had of our people started prone, started with leg length, whatever, did your process. Like if you're not truly present and allowing innate to connect innate and guide and direct you where to administer that adjustment, right? And you're again back to like thinking about the CA that needs your attention, the emails that you haven't done, or something that's going on at home, you're not giving them the best of yourself. And then they're, again, back to them not getting the results, and you're just jumping on bones for the sake of jumping on bones, and not being specific in the delivery of your adjustment. And so, but it's a trained skill, like teaching yourself to cancel, what we talk about, cancel, clear, connect, right? Closing out all of that negativity and all the other things that are running on in here and really locking in. It's a learned skill, and it's something that I want to challenge.
Something that I'll do sometimes if I feel like I'm like getting out of rhythm is I'll deliver that adjustment with a little extra torque or something like that, or try to do my toggle just a little bit quicker and a little bit, faster, right? Just to almost just cue my nervous system and be like, let's go. Like, all right, let's turn this power on, kind of thing. Because to your point, one of the other bullet points that you had sent out was, about doing the positive affirmations and how important that was. Because that's something I think that unlocks that trap door, like Fred Barge and those guys were talking about.
Yeah. And I would wear, and again, it's hard. And Joe Felicia, many of the docs listening probably don't even remember who Joe is, but I remember he.
I know who.
I know you've been around and get it. Yeah, but a lot of our listeners, and so I remember him teaching me to wear a rubber band, right? Because it's a pattern interrupt. Because we're going to have all those distractions, and snapping yourself to get you re-locked in and engaged, because it is super important. And then, to your point, life and death is in the power of the tongue, and if we're not speaking life to our practice members as they're coming and going, shame on us. Like part of that healing process is us speaking positivity and life into them. And so whatever your corny cues are, powers on, expect miracles, all the things that we know, but we should be doing that. And then again, referencing when they're going to be back, reinforcing compliance to care, and like, hey, powers on, I expect to see you, looking forward to seeing you Friday, or whatever it is, or check you Friday.
Sometimes I just tell people, hey, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for getting in here.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you getting in here, because they don't have people. I know they don't have people in their life that are telling them that they're proud of them. And that creates a reaction in them. Sometimes you can almost see the goosebumps on their skin pop up, when you say that kind of thing. And I think it addresses that leaky bucket. I want you to talk about the leaky bucket, because I know nobody's immune to the leaky bucket, no matter what they say or tell you.
Right. There's a lot of BS saying that I don't have a leaky bucket. We all have leaky buckets. Just matter how big the hole is.
So tell everybody what the leaky bucket is first, and then if you could connect that to what you're talking about with your languaging.
Yeah, I mean, our leaky bucket's exactly that. Like we bring people in the front door and they're leaving out the back door, right? Just because we haven't done all the things. And so whether it's, I'm processing 20 new patients a month and I'm losing half of them, or I started 20 people and whatever percent are dropping out of care, it happens. It's a multiple things. Like we could spend hours breaking down how to close that leaky bucket. But first and foremost, if the doctor takes care of themselves and get themselves right, and you're ready for the day, you've prepared for the day, and you're locked in and present, it's gonna close. It's gonna fill some of that hole, right? But if we're not doing the things, training ourselves, training our team, all the, getting to the point where we're back to flow state, like your team, you should be working and taking reps with them so that they're not having to think and process when they're engaging with practice members. Like it should just be part of their DNA, the things that they're saying, because you've trained them and they've role played and they script and they've gone through it. Yes, there's going to be some outlier stuff that might not know, but 90% of what they're doing on the daily is things that you can coach and mentor them through so that they're in that flow state. And that's going to, again, close that gap. But if we're just showing up blind and going through the motions in our day, we're going to have huge leaky buckets. We're going to spend all this upfront energy and intention, and we're not. It's going to be all for naught.
No question about it. When you're on your game, man, and your conviction's high and your certainty's high, that's when you close that. You close that. Nobody's slipping through the cracks, in those cases, because then it's like, no, I'll even say to people, no, you're scheduled right for tomorrow or in 2 days, right? Oh, I don't know. Well, you need to, because if you want to get the results you're looking for, right, then you need to follow the recommendations that we talked about, right? And you need to get in here. So
each visit builds on itself. Yeah, all the things.
Yeah, that's right. And I love the concept of systemization and all that, but it seems like in some cases you never get away from having to have that conviction and that certainty, right? And but that's also when you're in the greatest flow state too. And I feel like you deliver some of the most incredible care that you can offer.
Yeah, and you can get away with, like, yes, there is system process, and you should have systems and process in order to create ease in the building and ease in the flow and ease in the practice. But you can get away with passion, enthusiasm, and charisma and certainty in who you are and what you do. It'll overcompensate for having a broken system or process, because people are they're buying that experience that they're getting from you. And yes, the system is part of that experience, but the more locked in and ready you are to serve at a high level with conviction and passion and certainty, like it sometimes doesn't even matter what you tell them in a day too. They're like, yes, let's go. Just because you have so much juice and excitement for what the possibility is for their nervous system. So
I wanted you to just talk a little bit about your like what you do from a shift perspective and like a office perspective to prepare your staff and yourself, in those scenarios, because if when you get to the point where you have either multiple practices or multiple doctors in the office, you almost become like this player manager where do you remember Pete Rose? Pete Rose is one of I love Pete Rose. Pete was the consummate player manager. He put himself in the lineup, batting third every day, and was making trips to the mound in between.
Yeah. And so you're without back to systems, right? And the only way to scale and have multiple doctors or multiple clinics is through that system and that process, and being able to I think one giant gap and weakness I see within the profession, and it's probably across all businesses, is leadership's inability to communicate authenticity of what their expectations are, right? We just have and I'm only because I'm mostly in the chiropractic space, I just see we have all these built up stories of what we want from our team members and what we want from our doctors and all of these things. And so we haven't communicated that to them. Right. And then, so this unspoken expectation is we're premeditated disappointments in ourselves, right? We're already setting them up for failure because we haven't given them the gift and the tools that they need to succeed. And so really, I think the first and most important thing is to communicate with authenticity and transparency of like what you want from each person and what their role is, what their responsibility is, how important they are. Because none of us can operate at a high level without a team. Like, yes, you can have a staffless practice and serve it at a small level, but if you truly want to play big and impact and maximize your opportunity to touch lives, you got to have team members to support you in that journey. And so that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that I got to give you credit, man. That's one of the things that you really helped me with over the last 6 months is just setting those expectations for my staff and my associates, and then continually going back to that,
Yeah.
in an open, transparent way.
And I only teach that from a learn things the hard way, right? I remember I tell a story all the time. I had a doctor who was a great doctor, and we had a sudden change, as you will with multiple practices. Like, all right, next man up, like that. He's out, like you're in.
Yeah.
And we go back to the sports analogy, and we would bring them down. Those officers only open Monday through Thursday, so they bring them to our training center on Fridays to help with flow and just to continue to sharpen their skills. And the schedule's a little bit light. I'm like, hey man, why don't you go back up around the office and pass out cards, introduce yourself, say, hey, I'm right here around the corner. If you ever feel like you need a chiro, I'm your guy. I'm Dr. Such and such. It was great to meet you today. And this is coming from a kid that grew up in the ministry where they did that, right? So I was like, this is in his wheelhouse. Like this is like he's got this.
He got out his eyes closed.
Right. And I literally, man, I went home at lunch. I'm like, Heidi, I think he's gonna quit. Like I think I stretched him too much. And I literally within 30 minutes got an email giving me his notification that he was done. Like Nate told me like he's out. I think he's out. And so all that to be said is it wasn't something I told him I was going to expect of him to do. And so it stretched him outside of where he had been trained to. And so the more front you are with what you want from your team members, then you can have that conversation when things don't go the way they're supposed to or the way that you wanted them to. Like, hey, listen, man, we talked about this. Here's what I told you I expected and what I wanted and why, more importantly, why these things are important. And then it allows you to coach them and move the needle for the business. But if you don't, if you don't have those conversations and you throw somebody at the wolves and they're not ready for it, man, a lot of times they'll bounce on you. So,
like, I love it, man. I love it. Well, before we wrap up, I just want to tell people a little bit more about ChiroFest coming up.
Yeah.
And how they get connected with that.
Yeah, man. So we're year 17, crazy enough. I don't know why I'm still doing it, but I have a passion for the profession. But yeah, year 17, Pacific Northwest. I would say it's now that, it's probably the largest philosophical event on the West Coast. But this year it's September 25th and 26th. You'd fly in wherever you're at. You'd fly into Portland, Oregon. We're right across the river, 15 minutes across the river into Washington. 20 speakers, 50 exhibitors. Last year we had all in 750 registrations. So you were there, man. It's fun. It's high energy. Yeah, man, we celebrate. It's science, art, and philosophy, right? So we just get together and as they say that it's iron sharpens iron, but it's the stuff that happens in the room. So you got to get yourself in the room where things are happening, and you never know who you're going to meet that's going to either create a new business opportunity or inspire you to play bigger or whatnot. So yeah, get in the room.
That's the truth, man. That's the truth. Well, I really appreciate you being on with us today. I really recommend that you guys get out to ChiroFest. It is an incredible event. If you're looking to get some juice, the juice is worth the squeeze, kind of thing. So,
Thanks, bro.
Hope to see you guys there. Thanks again so much, Paul, for being on with me today, and look forward to talking to you soon, buddy.
Thanks, man.